Hello, I'm Phil Dobbie, and this is the Vantage Performance podcast, and it's the second in our four-part series looking at how your business can do well in the face of adversity. Now, if your business is going to succeed and ride the ebbs and flows of the economy, you need a sound strategy. Now, you might have one in the back of your head. You might even have written some of it down. But is it rigid enough to guide your business successfully into the future? Well, let's find out with the help of Michael Fingland, the CEO of Vantage Performance. Now, we've looked at the rudimentaries last week, Michael. Ensure that you've got that one-page management dashboard on a sheet of A3 paper. I seem to remember. You've got the 3-year integrated forecast. You've got the 13-week cash flow. And most importantly, you've got an open mind, a willingness to accept change. So with that open mind, let's look at the strategy. I guess, first of all, you look at your issues and risks in your business. Have you got those out of the way, first of all?
Yeah, definitely. And good morning, Phil. The other sort of critical thing to also have in place, which a lot of businesses don't, is an A3 again. We love our A3s. An A3 strategic plan,
right.
Which is more of a 12-month sort of business plan, but drilling down into a lot of the strategies, goals, and outcomes you're looking to achieve. And that's something you also look at each month, along with the management pack and the 3 ways and the 13-week cash flows. But certainly in relation to the way we approach stress testing and getting businesses prepared or for any potential shock, or if they're in that process of dealing with significant change, there's always a three sort of key areas that we focus on, which is strategy, capital, people, and strategy certainly all we'll focus on today. And the critical thing is to understand the really big issues. There might be a whole range of issues impacting on the business, but you need to distill into the top 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 key issues that you're dealing with, and make sure that using the usual 80-20 rule, make sure that you're spending the majority of your management time and focus on dealing with those large issues.
Right.
Because typically, and this has been proven time and time again, and is fundamental to our approach, is when you're dealing with a business in crisis or significant change, there's always 1 to 2 big changes in strategy that you need to make to right the business. And so once you've identified those major key issues that you've got to deal with, it's what are those 1 to 2 changes in direction or fundamental changes in strategy are we prepared to enact to change the course.
And the difference between an issue and a risk, I guess, is an issue, you've got to put issues right, whereas risks, you just need to know how big they are and you're making a calculated decision. Because obviously a business is all about risk-taking. There's always an element of risk in everything you do. You just got to make sure you've got a clear understanding of the extent of that risk.
That's right. And the fundamentals around risks are which risks are you presently, or which risks have become issues? So are they actually on your doorstep? Which ones are near-term, long-term, and what is the potential financial impact of those? And then you rate them accordingly using a typical score sheet. And it's really focusing on the major risks that can impact on the business in the near term, 3 to 6 to 12 months, and then developing strategies to mitigate those, and whether they be industry, internal, or regulatory.
Right. And some of them perhaps aren't solvable. Some of them you just have to accept. If you're going to go in a certain direction, moving in that direction has a risk associated with it. You just got to accept that as part of doing business, I would have thought.
That's right. And one of the fundamentals, when it comes to strategies, we with every client, no matter what stage of cycle they're in, turnaround, high growth, succession, etc., is a constant focus on, and this is where that strategy plan comes in, how are we going to stand out from the crowd?
Yeah.
And developing or unearthing your USP is a fundamental part of that, because whether it's trying to access capital, debt or equity, there are a lot of companies out there that look very, very similar. And more and more, it's harder to tap into those 2 forms of funding, and you need to have a strategy that really tangibly helps you stand out from the crowd.
So is it all about just the USP, that unique selling point to stand out from the crowd? I would have thought there'd be other, it might be a number of variables. You might have something which makes your product different, but there's also differences in the way your company behaves, for example.
Oh, it's a whole range of things, and it all needs to be integrated throughout the entire business. So it's everything from the way your staff from initial phone contact with a potential outside party, deals with the customer, all the way through to how products are packaged, how visibly they look different to someone else, the time, care and attention taken through the production phase, so you don't have returns come back to the business, how you manage your payments with your suppliers. It is all integrated, and those firms that really get that, USP or unique selling point and a real focus on their brand and their culture, those that really get how that flows through the entire organisation are those that really go on from strength to strength. So it is incredibly important that you get that right and that it cascades through all parts of the business.
Now, the useful tool for pulling all of the things that we've been talking about together so far, sort of like the issues that your business might face and how you're going to stand out from the crowd. It's funny, isn't it, how management tools, some of them just, have stood the test of time, but bringing in that SWOT analysis, that strength, weakness, opportunity, threats analysis, that's a good way of pulling all of this together.
Oh, it is, and it's one of the best management tools ever created because it really forces you to be honest and brutal, and really identify where you need to be focusing, and that's what business is all about: having a quarterly focus on a key area of the business. So regularly understanding your SWOT just helps make those things top of mind.
And they're an internal focus and external focus. That's the good thing as well. The strengths and weaknesses are internal. The opportunities and threats are really to do with the market you're operating in. So it forces you to take that holistic approach, which is sometimes hard for a business because they become so internally focused.
That's right. And when it comes to keeping your stakeholders, supportive of the business, that being your banker, your shareholders, creditors, etc., you need to ensure that you really have a good grasp on all the issues and you've got initiatives to deal with any issues you may be facing. So regularly doing the SWOT is a key way of demonstrating that. Regularly updating that strat plan is a key part of that. And having a really robust stakeholder management plan is a key part of any strategy that any management team needs to ensure. So you've got to have, that's one of our guiding principles on the strategy topic, is you've got to have a documented and well-practiced stakeholder management plan. And you're regularly talking to those key stakeholders.
So out of your SWOT analysis, I guess one of you understand now where you've got an opportunity to grow. The natural thing then to do is to look at what you are doing and what you're selling, your product range, how well it's doing. Can you expand it in any way? Are there some products that just aren't relevant anymore? That they're all hard questions you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, and at least sort of quarterly, if not every 6 months, looking at gross product percentage or margin percent by product, by customer, by service. Critical because a lot of businesses that grow quickly expand into far too many product ranges, and without a real understanding of whether they're making money or not, and 12 months down the track they're losing money and don't really know where. So it's fundamental that is a regular part of any management team process, is to regularly review products and margins. But critically, particularly with regards to products, and this is a key fundamental tool in any economy where there's a downturn or dislocation, is a continued spend on R&D. Time and time again, it's been proven that those companies that continue to spend money on R&D and marketing and don't slash those heavily are those that actually come through in a much stronger fashion and will take market share.
And yet, a lot of businesses will be saying, well, look, we don't need R&D right now because our business is doing quite well. The products we're selling are giving us a good margin. Why invest that money now when clearly we've got a product, for these times?
It all comes back to a really big problem in our, business community is short-termism, whether it's a listed company or whatever. But, marketing costs, they're the easiest to cut, because you can cut them off straight away, and that's the short-term thinking that a lot of management teams take, rather than the medium to long-term, which is, do we want to come out through this challenging period still discounting an old product, or how about we're actually coming out to the market with a brand new product that people will pay more money for? And that courage and the commitment to stay in the course is why those companies that continue to focus on R&D and marketing, maybe not at the same rate, but just don't slash it as much as others, they are the ones that come through in a much stronger fashion, because you can retain margin when you're releasing new products and services to the market, whereas the rest of the pack are still slashing each other's throats with old products, discounting their way through. Yeah,
that's right. It's you just got to keep on remembering that graph of the life cycle, haven't you? And of a product, and thinking you don't want to be on the downside of that curve when you could be on the upside, is what you're saying, of your next product.
And that all comes back to, again, the same theory of how do you stand out from the crowd? Well, we're going to continue spending money on R&D and releasing new products on a regular basis to the market because everyone else isn't.
Right.
And so it's as fundamental as that.
Okay, gaining critical mass for your business. Now, that might be an issue for many. I think this is a familiar scenario, in fact. And you often see two companies, fairly small companies, having difficulty taking on the competition. So they say, well, hell, let's join together and give them a run for their money.
Yeah, definitely. That's one way that it's often approached. And the other one, which we'll talk about now, is, and this is, I think, going to be a seriously needed tool, particularly in that mid-market SME space, up to sort of 100 million turnover, maybe a bit more, but over the next 2 years, is those companies who can cut costs so far, but they don't have room to cut costs even further with their declining revenues. So the only way they're going to be able to survive will be to merge with their competitors, either in their same field or slightly more further afield. So a merger of two is going to be a much needed, or certainly need to be considered strategy for a lot of businesses to survive over the next 12, 18 months.
It's got to be fairly well considered, though, hasn't it? Particularly if you're looking at moving into a different area. That has got to be, that's a strategic decision, not just for pure financial reasons, then getting back to your product strategy as well.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be just for survival, although a lot of them will need to merge just for survival purposes. But a lot of mergers don't go well, and the fundamental key area that they get wrong is the cultural integration between the two organisations, the staff piece. And but if you've got a strong focus on, the synergies are there, they make sense, financially it works, the financing is in place, and a lot of the costs will drop away and make the business or the combined group, much more viable and sustainable.
Yeah.
But there has to be almost a relentless focus on how to ensure that the people issues are integrated well, and not just at the time of transaction, but for 12, 18 months, 24 months afterwards, a continued focus and a distinct strategy on people integration to ensure that those synergies actually become real.
Yeah. Now, you might not be forced to do it because things are going well for you, but they might not be going so well for the other party, for the company that you're buying. And that then becomes an opportunity. If you're well prepared for it, you've got a competitor who's in stress, then a real opportunity for your business to grow.
Yeah, and that's why we're doing a lot of work in. Yeah, absolutely, and that's why we're doing a lot of work in this space, because the smart companies are actually getting their house in order, getting these strategies done now, so they are in a position to take advantage, if you like, of their competitors who falter. And you can either be one of those that benefits from that, or the other. I certainly know which one I'd rather be, and you're in a more commanding position.
And I guess this leads us into what we're going to talk about next time, because to be in that position, obviously, you've got to be in a good financial position. You've got to have all your books in order. You've not got to be carrying too much debt. You've got to have paid down as much of that as you possibly can, so that when you're going to get some finance to fund an acquisition like this, people are going to say yes to you.
That's right, and you can get the strategy right, but without the right capital structure, you can't execute it.
Right. What a segue. Well, look, we'll talk about that next time we meet. Good to talk for the moment. Thank you, Michael.
Cheers, Phil. Look forward to it.